Really? Okay, I'll speak in English then, because you might understand it better. Have you heard about polypolarity? Raise your hands if you did. That makes sense, because I just made up this word. But there's a meaning for me. That means when someone has different personalities depending on the language that they are speaking. I'm going to explain you a little bit my background so I can sustain my thoughts. In the last 6 years, I lived in 4 different countries where I had to speak in English plenty of times. At work, nowadays, I speak a lot, probably more in English than I do in Portuguese. I consider myself fluent. It doesn't cost me more energy to think in English than it costs me to think in Portuguese. And then, about 2 months ago, I was delivering a speech in another club, in another Toastmasters in Portuguese. You might remember that speech in here as well, and I was speaking about happiness at work. I delivered that speech in Portuguese in the other club, and then a few days after, or a week after, I came to this club and I delivered the same speech in English. And strangely, or maybe not, I thought that when I finished my speech, it went way, way better in English. And I was wondering why. And you might be thinking, alright, you had more time to prepare it. Alright, Tiago, you got feedback so you could improve on that. You practiced more because it was afterwards. I do believe in something different. I believe that you have different personalities depending on the language that you're talking about. Now I'm going to explain you few tools that each language has to prove my point. Alright, have you heard about the word saudade in Portuguese? There's no translation for that in other languages. You can sort of translate it, but there's no direct translation to that. And if you think that you want to express a message, in Portuguese you can say saudade for something, but you cannot do the same in other languages. So right there, you're lacking tools to express the same idea. Then there's languages where there are clusivity. The words, if I'll tell you, we won the lottery, you probably are going to be happy, as happy as I am for winning the lottery. But I can also say, we won the lottery and everyone else is excluded. That's the inclusivity of the words being inclusive or exclusive. And not having inclusivity of the words might mean that sometimes we are expressing something that might be confused with something else. When I refer to you, I'll say that you are in front of me and the window is on my left. But there are a few languages that when I refer to you, I must say that you're north facing towards me. The window, it's on west, and that's not related to me, that's absolute cardinal directions. So the way we perceive things around us change based not on us, but on something absolute. When in these languages, sometimes people ask you, how do you do? How are you going? And while in Portuguese or in English you say, I'm doing fine, in that languages you say, I'm going north. You must know where you're going right before you left home. That's a game changer. You got then languages where there's no numbers. Can you imagine that? IT doesn't exist. If you ask someone how many apples are there in a tree, in Portuguese and English, where you got numbers, you can say there's 13 apples. If you have a language without numbers, you must say there's plenty. Well, there's less than in the other tree. It changed a lot. You don't have absolute thoughts. Last, there are words, there are languages that have genres. In Portuguese, something is male, is masculine or feminine. But in English that doesn't exist. And statistically, if you ask someone, for example, to describe a bridge, in Portuguese we're talking about the feminine, a ponte. While in Spanish we'll be talking el puente, the masculine words. And it's more common, people refer to the masculine noun as something strong, something robust. While most of the people that would describe something female will describe as something beautiful. That changed everything. There are few rules, few options in each language that change everything. There's about 7,000 languages in the world, and each single them has its own rules. Can you imagine the changes that it makes when you try to communicate? The fact that these tools are different makes you communicate differently, makes you perceive people in a different way, makes you interact differently. I'm not proving anything, but I truly believe that the fact that we have these tools in each language makes us different people in certain languages. I feel that I'm more inspirational in English than I am in Portuguese. I can be more confident in English and I can express that. And about 1,000 years ago, Charles Magno said, to have a second language is to possess a second soul. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiago. I ask our timers here to count a minute for evaluation. Okay, time's up. So I ask you to push up the evaluation to the end of the session and try to do it in the end before giving to Tiago. I had also so many questions for you about holidays and stuff, but now it's time to give the stage to Cami. She will do all the questions and the challenges to all of us in the table topics. Cami.
Thank you, Sara.